Alrighty, welcome to another morning in paradise, and it's a cold morning. Although the sun's shining, it's nice. Anyway, now I've just been getting my setup going on here. I'm ready to put this loom in the car. Now I've just bundled all this onto the bench here because I've been mucking around with it. But the loom is 100% done. Well, 99% done. I've got a couple of spare wires here. This is for the starter motor. I need to cut them to length. And another couple here for the alternator, which I also need to cut to length. So that's the only two plugs in the whole thing that need to be sorted. And I have just bundled it on there because I've been mucking around with it. Now, if you follow it all around, it goes around and around and around and around and around. And it comes into this here, which I call my lunchbox of doom. And I thought, well, I'll stick it in a box rather than having it all exposed, you know. And I thought a lunchbox is good because it's got a quick release lid. I've got a whole board on the side of it, so I can still go to my USB. The computer itself is velcroed in there, so you can rip it off and on, easy as, no problems at all. It's protected-ish. I've got my main relay in there with 3 fuses for the various things in the loom, and I've got all my outputs here ready to go for all sorts. Of note are my CAN bus line ready to go to the UaDash. It's ready to plug and go. Yeah, everything else is there. So that's it. So yeah, that's my lunchbox of doom. I've got to obviously mount that behind the seat of my car and go for it. But it's all, I mean, it looks a bit hickory, but I think functionally it'll work really good. So now I've just been mucking around with this morning on my computer. I have just getting all the settings ready in the ECU before I put it in the car, then have to muck around with it and maybe change something. So what I've done is I'll open up Tuner Studios, as we do, get rid of all this stupid antivirus. Okay, open up my last project. Okay, now I know there's a bit of screen glare there, but obviously the ECU is not plugged into a power supply or anything, but I can still do a lot of testing. So I'll plug that in. The ECU starts flashing. Now I've just been playing with Tuner Studios, getting some gauges and things organised. This is what I've got. I've got my main gauge on the left there. I've got a speedo reading there that I need to sort out for a sensor on the car. But I've got a plug there waiting for it. And I have a sync error count because I think that's probably important when I'm trying to set up. And the main thing I was doing was setting up these 3 down the side here. I've got fuel level, oil pressure, and fuel pressure. So I got them all sorted. Went through the gauge, these little senders here. They've got readings on them, you know, the voltages versus the pressure. Went through them all, got them all sorted. I can manually blow with my mouth into that and get 2 psi on either one. So they are doing something. They're on the right channels. The big one was the fuel level, and as you can see, that's the fuel level at the top there. And I have a sender similar to this in the fuel tank, and so I've been mucking around with that and put a dividing bridge in it with a 220 ohm resistor, 240 ohm, I can't remember, 220, 240. So at the moment, as you can see, it's reading 0. And if I put it up to, say, halfway, it then reads 63%. And if I put it up to full, it goes around to 100%. So I've got that all sorted, and I've changed some alpha setting because it was really, really, really slow to react, which is probably quite practical in a car when you're going around corners and bumps and things. But I've just changed it temporarily so that it obviously it moves. It's back to 0 and just about on 0. So there you go. So that's good stage one. Next stage will be putting the unit, threading it through the car, and we'll get into it now. Okay, it's another day, and a lot of the hard work has been done. I didn't film it because you don't really want to see me screaming at trying to fit wires through little holes. Anyway, so what I've done here is I've got my lunchbox of Doom mounted. It's also Velcro to the firewall at the back there, so the whole thing can sort of rip out real easy. It's all connected, ready to go. Sorry, but it's a bit dark, but we're getting there. And we run the Loom through into the car, and as you can see, that's the main sort of branch area there where it branches off to the coils, branches off to the injectors and everywhere else. And so we're all wired, everything's hooked up. We've got our fuel pressure sensor there and our regulator ready to go. We've got one in the block for the oil pressure. And we have our new wideband in to the exhaust. I've left the coils unplugged because I don't want this thing to, at this initial stage, I'm just going to leave them unplugged. I have seen people melt coils when they've had the settings wrong in the software in terms of not falling versus rising. The coils are powered on full time instead of unpowered full time. Anyway, that's cool. Rising, falling, I can't remember. Anyway, so we're all good there. We're set to go. Now, all this is experiment is today is to see if this thing will power up, and it's not going to start or anything because I need to run a set of new fuel lines because my Chinese fuel lines that are in the car at the moment, lo and behold, after 6 months of being in there, they've gone hard and started to crack and split. So I will be going to tried and tested just plain Jane fuel injection rubber hoses. They cost a lot of money, but per meter it's expensive stuff, man. Anyway, so now I'm going to insert a little short clip right here now of me powering up for the first time. This is not the first time I'm going to power it up. I tried to power it up before, and I have no power getting to the dash. So I'll insert that clip now. Alright, first time powering everything on for the first time, and I was just curious, my CAN bus line is connected from my UaEFI to my dash, but when I turn it on, you get a dash display, throttle's working, but I've got no readings of anything on the dash. So do I have to initiate something in the software? Let me know what you think. Alright, it's another day, ran out of time of course. There's these funny little things here are 120 ohm terminating resistors that I made up, and because I had a thought that I know a little bit about CAN bus and I know there's got to be termination resistors most of the time, so after lots of asking questions and not getting many answers, I thought, right, I'll give it a crack and see what I can do. So I've done some measurements, and what we've got over here is, everything's a bit dark, but at this end here, which goes to my UaEFI, this is my CAN bus coming out, I've unplugged it there and checked the two terminals, and I have 120 ohms. That means that the UaEFI has a terminating resistor built into it, as far as I'm aware. CAN bus line goes down to the front of the car, and I've checked it at the screen end, and there is no 120 ohms there. So as far as I'm aware, I've got to have a terminating resistor on each end. So I'm going to put one in here where the plug joins into the dash, and so I'll wire him in across the two high and lows, and see if we can get it to talk. All right, let's do it. All right, so a bit of progress. This is what I've come up with. Trial and error. Now this may look a bit complicated, but this is what's happened. I've gone from a buck converter back to a your standard USB plug-in socket type thing. For some reason, it still doesn't like, even though the screen comes up nicely and everything works good, it doesn't like the buck converter. So we've gone to back to a USB type power supply that plugs in there. And so I've discovered a few things. First one is the ECU in the back of the car has a termination resistor, and the screen does not. So I've put a termination resistor in the Loom where it plugs into the screen at just beyond this point here, this CAN bus line. Some people say it works without it, but from all my research, it needs two termination resistors, 120 ohms each end, a 60 ohm across the lines when they're all plugged in. So I've done that anyway, and then I've discovered it still didn't like the buck converter, as we talked about, got that power supply on there. And then the final thing is I figured out if the screen is on the same ignition supply circuit that powers the ECU, and they both turn on at exactly the same time, the screen will not talk, or the computer will not talk to the screen. So, but if you unplug the screen and plug it back in, it will talk after the ECU's been powered up. So on a lot of people, they may use a secondary ignition supply for their screen. It may work for them. For example, if they use a USB plug-in to a cigarette lighter type attachment like that, that's usually on a secondary ignition supply that comes on after the main supply. And also when your engine is cranking, that supply turns off. So this means that supply will come on after the actual ECU in the car. So this is what I've done. Since I'm all on the same supply, I've put a $5 China module in there, a delay module. Programmed it nice and easy, just a little 5-minute jobby. All right, so I'm going to power this on, and you'll see what it does. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, on. Okay, and we count down, and then it powers on, and the screen is on. And that's all it needs for everything to work smoothly. All right, back in the car, and we'll show you what we got. We've got a win. We'll turn the key on, and you'll see the delay on. Screen's on, and as you can see, it finally has some readings on it. It looks a bit washed out on the video here, but the screen is very nice, and the background is black. Everything stands out good, and you can see there, bottom right, that's my fuel level, and I've just put a temporary fuel sender on it because the gas tank's hardly got any gas in it at all. As you can see, that's near the bottom, and I put it nearer to the top. And we go back to the gauge, and look at that, we've got 80% full. So yeah, everything's working good. I'll go through it and set it all up properly, but as far as I'm concerned, we've got a win at last. And yes, when I crank it over, it shows RPM on the screen, so that's a good start. And so the next thing will be, I'll turn it off because of that noise. The next thing will be just running these fuel lines that I've got sitting on the door here, because the China ones have started to leak, and we can go for our first fire up, and we'll go from there. So I've left the coils unplugged like we talked about, and we'll get the thing timed up and put the fuse in for the fuel, and away we go. Right, I'm going to sign off here, and yeah, that was my little saga. So moral of the story is, for the UaDash, if you're going to use it properly, like in my situation, we are going to have a good power supply. And believe it or not, a good power supply is not a buck converter, it's a generic off-the-shelf cigarette lighter plug-in type power source. And possibly we also need to have a delay on the ignition feed to it, so that the computer and the dash don't turn on at the same time. And whether it makes a difference or not, we are talking about only the ECU has a 120 ohm resistor for the CAN bus line. The screen does not, or my screen does not. Whether another seller may sell the screen with a resistor, termination resistor built into the CAN bus line, I'm not sure. But I've added one of those in anyway, because that's what you're supposed to do. But anyway, so that's it. A few little lessons learned. Hopefully this might help out some other people. So we're going to sign it off there. One last time. Click. And boom. Into it. Beautiful. Love it. Right. Next time. See you later.